Hey, what's up, my beautiful ASADAH says viewers? You know what time it is. It's time for us to get it in. Yes, indeed, we're rocking this month with Love Don't Hurt. Ooh, I'm going to help you see that for sure. That's our beautiful theme. And today we're going to rock with a sister that is bringing it. She's a certified trauma specialist. And we're going to look at how love don't hurt. ALICIA Perry's going to bring it. But before we get on, I'm on the female solution. And if you don't know what the female solution is, that's okay, because I'm going to show you what it is. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after these messages so that you know what you're watching. Thanks, Naima.
Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the female solution.
All right, so there you have it. That's how we get down. That's how we get up, I should say. And I'm so happy to rock today. This is a very dear topic to me because I didn't grow up saying I got to fight against this. Kids getting hit, because I wasn't brought up that way, but it's something about when I follow what I'm told to do. And I'll go through the story a little bit about how I got to my book, Beating Black Kids and all of that. But that set the tone for me becoming a major force in the anti-corporal punishment world, right? But we'll get into all that. But I'm not going to take no more time, because it's time to introduce my friend, ALICIA Perry. ALICIA Perry, baby, come on the stage. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much, my friend ASADAH, for having me on the show this morning.
Oh,
I'm looking
man.
forward to, what we're going to have a discussion about today.
Well, watch this, y'all. So me and ALICIA go back. I'm in Chicago. It's a lot of ways I be connecting with people and this and that. We don't went to breakfast together, or sometimes we see each other at the party, whatever. But last week, I was reaching out, putting out something, and boy, she called me right back. ALICIA, talk a little bit about what happened and why we talking right now.
So, almost a week ago, ASADAH did reach out to me, and I was having an experience. And I was, based on the Love Don't Hurt, just so many things came to me from the universe just about the topic in general. Growing up in a two-parent household and then later a single-parent home, we never talk about adverse childhood experiences. And being a clinician, a life coach, a person that's certified in trauma, this is something that I specialize in working with in the community, actually, as a professional. And I wanted to explain the model, adverse childhood experiences. It is known as the ACEs. It's a theory that originated in the 1990s, and the concept was introduced through a landmark study and conducted by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and Kaiser Permanente. And the study was actually based between the years of 1995 and 1997. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The study aimed to explore the relationship between childhood trauma and long-term health outcomes and the identification of adverse experiences that significantly impact individuals in later life. So when we look at the ACEs actually looks at when you're from ages 0 to 17 years of age. And what the study is suggesting that within our lifetimes growing up in this particular time frame, we are actually the persons and environment that grow up. So we're like the sponge, right? We're born, we're living in whatever environment our parents are in, or our mothers, and maybe there may be uncles, aunts, whoever is in that environment that dictates how we develop and grow not just from a physical perspective, but also from a mental health perspective and brain development. And so ACEs looks at trauma events that dictate how we view and engage with the world. So from 0 to 17, I know this may sound strange, but we have to actualize that we are responsible for ourselves within that time frame because everyone around us in our environment dictates. So the three types of ACEs that I'm going to discuss are abuse. So for the first segment, we'll be looking at the physical aspects, which means that did you experience any physical abuse? Did you experience any emotional abuse? Did you experience any sexual abuse? And then the next domain we'll look at is neglect, which means physical and emotional. And then household dysfunction. Did you witness any domestic violence? Was there a relative incarcerated? Was your mother, did you witness your mother being treated violently or any other adult in the home? Because we also want to normalize that men have been abused in homes as well. We also want to look at if we witnessed substance abuse and if our parent was a single parent and or was there a father ever even reported? Because sometimes we know that in our households, there's oftentimes a single mom raising the child and the impacts that that can create in a home setting.
Mm.
So, when we look at the particular domains, the questionnaire is comprised of 10 questions. And within the 10 questions, we don't always see someone having a check mark for 10, but we may certainly see people having a check mark in 8 of these domains.
Mm.
And within these domains, this dictates who you are and possibly who you become as an adult person.
Mm.
And so when we look at it within my household, I experienced some levels of physical abuse, some levels of emotional abuse. Um, in the neglect area, it kind of overlaps because emotional and physical is a form of neglect based on what DCFS says. In order to go in and take a child out the home, those particular factors are viewed as something that can substantially cause harm to the child.
Now, let me say this. Let me just come on in for a minute because what I don't want us to do, black people out there, and I'm talking to all people, but I'm talking to black people now. My book is called Beating Black Kids because we act like hitting children is normal. And we act like beating kids is, and people say, don't call them kids. That's a baby goat. I said, that's how you treating them.
Mhm.
You ain't treating them like no child. So I want us to not try to band-aid what we're talking about today because that normalizing hitting children and making like it's something we always, even in comedy, say that's what's wrong with white people. They don't beat their kids and we beat our kid. But yeah, that's why we at the bottom of the totem pole
Mhm.
because our kids, I think we have the worst treated children on the planet, our people. And that's because of, I feel, slavery, colonialism, observing how our children were treated. This topic can go on so many layers. But before we strongly get into ACEs and how you use it as a tool, one of the things I thought was so strong, y'all, because I was disseminating my concept, love don't hurt. And then I got this text from Alicia talking about, yo, we got to talk about this because we're normalizing our parents' behavior and the fact that our parents out here hitting and yelling at children, but it's scarring us. It's not even
And
just staying with us as children, it's scarring us. I have people say, well, I got beaten, I turned out fine. And I'm like, did you though? Or I say, fine is average. That you turn out fine or excellent. Oh, I mean excellent. No, you didn't. That's not what you said. You said fine. That's mediocre. And then
Mhm.
I end up creating an acronym for fine. That FINE, turning out fine as failing indefinitely, never emerging. And that is what I feel about where we've how we've traveled. We know we could sit on the front of the bus now and all this stuff. But the fact that in 2026, we still think we need to hit our children to discipline them. And my question, I guess I want to ask is, because this is why we connected. You yourself, you said to me, we got to stop normalizing this. And you talked about your own experience. And I'm going to say this. Hey, parents, don't think we out here to incriminate no parents, but we are here to tell the truth. And so sometimes you can't handle the truth, but we're going to handle it today. So can you just talk a little bit about how this, because it's in your own life, but it's also in your work. What do you see in terms of what's done and how it impacts people so that they carrying all that into adulthood? What do you think is detrimental?
Um, what I see as detrimental is the unresolved, and again, what you stated, the normalization of beating children.
Mhm.
We all, I believe, and this just isn't in our community, but of course, right? We
Mhm.
come with a backpack.
Mhm.
We come with a backpack so heavy weighted, and we normalize. And instead of when someone asks us how we're doing, we say, "Oh, we're fine," and on the inside, we're breaking.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
deal with the guilt and shame. We make excuses, just as you stated, right? Oh well, it's okay. I'm still living. I'm a better me because of it. But really, in essence, you aren't. You
Right.
take the same or the same backpack, right? You take that
Mhm.
to your relationships, whether it's with men, women, people, your jobs. And so it's very impactful because we're afraid to say, you know what, how I was raised, right? It affected me. It cost me my
Mhm.
dignity, my
Mhm.
self-worth. It caused me to make poor choices in how I engage with life, how I
Mhm.
engage with others, my decisions, my fears about if I'm good enough, can I excel in avenues in my life? It causes us to question a lot of different things about ourselves, and
That's
it
right.
really takes doing some emotional work for us to move through it in a way. And I do want to say, right, um, because I grew up in a household where I witnessed domestic violence heavily. Um,
Mhm.
did it shape how I viewed life? Absolutely, it did. Right? Did I feel guilty? Did I feel shame? Um, even though I understood my own parents' trauma, it doesn't negate. And I know that's the universe, right?
Mhm.
Understanding that it was carried through the spirit, as you
Mhm.
mentioned, Asada, right? If we look at ACEs, right, 0 to 17 is just the capsule of the time frame
Okay.
from birth to adolescence. But if we look at the actual time frame, if we look at our parents, if we look at our ancestors, if we think about the traumas that they experienced,
Mhm.
what happens with that? It's
Yes.
carried through the spirit.
Yes, it is. Yep.
And when it's carried through the spirit, right, it actualizes when our parents come together and they form us, right, in utero. Mom
Mm.
carries us, right?
Mhm.
Whatever dad had going on with him, it's still carried through in his DNA.
Yes. Yep.
And when we are carried in utero, if mom is engaging in substance use, if mom is being shamed, if mom is in a domestic violence relationship, all of those emotions, in addition to spiritually what's been carried, that transmits to the child.
Come on. Come on. And it isn't it generational? Isn't it just passed on? Isn't it just like, I want to show a video real quick where I talk about just that because we become parents. Now we know how we become parents.
Correct.
Right. Mm. Ain't nobody planned hardly. But like you said, there's that carrying on. I'm gonna play a quick video for y'all to see, and we're gonna comment on what I'm saying about this, how this is carried on through our parenting. Let's take a look. I've heard a lot about the things that are being done with legislation and making sure that states and countries ban corporal punishment and things of that nature. But if you do not go and talk to the mother or the father about their innate views and their innate feelings about children, you can pass all the laws you want, but you're not changing the fiber of the society. The laws will be changed overnight if you have a rally of parents to back it. But the reason you don't have a rally of parents to back it is because they still have these deep-seated feelings of resentment towards kids or whatever they were raised with. I was beaten and it made me turn out better. You know, they have that belief. So if that's what has to be attacked, that's what has to be handled, is the fact that they actually believe that they deserve the beatings and that they're going to give more beatings because it made them better. My approach is to attack the pain, not in a way that's like evaluative. Let's look at that. I don't care about that. Nobody wants to feel like that, like they're being researched. I'm talking about, did it work for you? When I do my workshops, I have people actually look at their first exposure to violence, and I have them draw what their first exposure to violence is, and you'd be very surprised what they come up with. And when they look at it themselves, see, they blocked it out for so many years, to return to it and see it, they don't like it. And so then I have them address, well, what would have been better? And then they conjure up the better things. And after that, they go, oh, and they don't want to do those things anymore. One lady said to me in a workshop, thank you for letting us tell our stories because no one ever asked us. That was like amazing. She's a parent. Nobody ever asks. They just want to condemn the parents for what they're doing. But you're not asking them the questions that will help you see why they're doing it. It's like you want to answer, but you're not really asking the questions to get the answer. You're just condemning people for their actions. But when you really listen to these people, you know why they do it. And then you know how to fix it. It's that simple. Man,
Yeah.
now. Oh, so to me, what this does a little bit is, this, you could go in so many directions with this topic, but what this does is it makes us look at, okay, our parents did a thing, but then what was done to them?
Mhm.
And did they ever have an experience or an opportunity to do what we're doing? What we're doing right now can be generation altering. Like
It
we
can.
can alter the process, the trajectory of our families acting like this because we're looking at having to have a conversation about this. And so, looking at that and looking at this sort of layer, generational layer, would you say, or what would you say, or what do you think or know your parents experienced to make it so that you had an experience, but where you think it came from? What do you think came before it?
From both of my parents experienced traumas. My mother, at the age of 8, she has 16 siblings. A few are passed on,
Okay.
and a majority of them witnessed their mother be murdered. So my mother was 8 years old.
Mm,
Um, and even hearing that story, right? Even just the fact, right? 8 years old, and I see my mother murdered before me, right?
yeah. Yeah.
It's heavy weighted.
That's heavy. Yeah.
Being, replaying the stories from her sharing with me, right? Certainly no one knew or did anything, right, for that to occur. It
Hmm.
happened. And
Hmm.
it happened for a multitude of reasons that I've learned about over the years, but the impacts of it, right?
Right.
16 children being shipped off to live with their grandparents, and the grandparents already had 12 children that they were
Ooh.
raising in the
Ooh.
country, in the South, in Georgia.
Yeah.
Um, and it was my great grandfather that stepped in and said, "Hey, I don't want my daughter's children to be sparse, everywhere. I want them to be with family."
Okay.
But being with family, right? Did it come with some things? Of course, they were, uh, and I don't like to use the word abuse, but it's actual, right? They were abused. They were beat. They were forced to beat each other, right? Um,
Mhm.
and hearing my mother relive that at 77 years old, and her siblings that are living, they still talk about it as if it happened yesterday.
Wow.
Um,
See?
Seeing the impacts of how it has affected long term, some of her siblings have mental health because of it, diagnosis where they're unable to manage because of the trauma being not addressed. Because,
Mhm.
of course, in the South, they couldn't afford it. And then growing up, right, the stigma of society in the Black community, right, we don't
Mhm.
do therapy. We keep the things in the
In the
home,
house. In
right?
the house. All the secrets.
Absolutely. And the
Mhm.
impacts of that particular. And then for my dad, my father, God rest his soul, he passed away when I was in my 20s, late 20s.
Okay.
His mom left him to be raised by his grandparents. And
Okay.
as a result of that, for him, it was traumatic because he was termed the black sheep of the family,
Okay.
and given a derogatory nigga and those things.
Yeah.
And the difference in my mom and dad was that they talked to me about their lives, but the unique thing about it is that they came together in love, and here I am. And so I'm a
Okay.
love baby. Like I love
Okay.
love, right?
Okay.
Um, but it didn't change that both my parents loved me, but the love was so very different from both of them. For
Mm.
a time in my life, my dad was verbally abusive.
Mhm.
He engaged in domestic violence acts with my mother that I saw, right?
Gotcha. Mhm.
And that was traumatizing,
Yeah.
for a child to grow up and see that and to normalize. Later in life, my father used drugs.
Mhm.
And I learned, right, he actually started using it really young, but who learned, right, until later on. I learned later on, actually, right, he was doing that to cope. And the
Yep.
difference between he and my mom, right? Me and my dad could sit down and talk about his traumas and his things and his activities and the
Okay.
way that he engaged with life, right? How that came to be versus my mother is very proud, right? And she's the reason that I became a clinician because she did
Okay.
the very thing that she couldn't do for herself.
Mm.
She didn't think enough of herself to get in therapy, even though she started me in therapy at 10 years old, right?
Okay. Okay.
And so I've been in therapy, going through the processes, doing the work, and I'm 56 and I'm a clinician today. And but I know like I just didn't walk into that.
Mhm.
I'm here because it's time to break the cycle. It's time to come
Mm.
forward with the truth. So many of my friends and other colleagues are in a space where we can talk about these things, and we have to start having and noting this as a normal conversation.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I think I love what you said most. And we got some comments, so I got to bring them bad boys up for real, because, people, this is going to spark, it's sparking, it's not ruffling feathers per se,
It's
but
not.
it definitely can be triggering because we're giving people an opportunity to talk. Let me go to this first one. Naima Latif, hey Naima, says, how do you answer parents who ask, but how do I get them to obey if I don't hit them? They insist methods like talking to them and giving them time out, or grounding them don't produce obedience in children.
Mm,
Ooh, girl, Naima, look now. I always like to define, and then I'm gonna come back to what you're talking about, Alicia, because I love one of the things I love that you said was that you are love baby. They came together in love.
mhm,
But dag, it was so much hurt. You almost can't even highlight that. You gotta, but we want people to know love don't hurt. Like you cannot make them synonymous. Now, just to address what Naima said just now, I like to define discipline. Because when you look at the etymology, that's the root of the word discipline, y'all. It comes from the Latin root disciplina, and disciplina means teach. So when you're disciplining children, you're supposed to be teaching them. Now, you hitting people is not teaching because you're creating pain. You're actually damaging cells in the body. For real. And so we're going to get into it in the second half, like just brain development wise and what's happening physiologically. But pretty much we're going to be talking about too, just know talking to young people like we're talking right now will get you the results you want because you got to make them think. Because when you hurt, it turns on a different mind, baby,
Mhm.
that makes you that you trying to figure out how to get through life. That fight or flight mode actually gets damaged. So we'll talk a little bit more about this. I want to bring up this other comment too. Zelda, hey Zelda speaks. She says, keeping secrets is what causes because we need to release the energy thrust upon us. Unfortunately, we don't usually have the skills, as author Iyanla Van Zant would say, until today. Ashe. Thank you, Zelda, because I'm gonna tell you something. This not having the skills is part of what I'm talking about. There's a part of the brain called the regulatory part of the brain that helps you in times of adversity, fight, flight, whatever. But guess what? If a child has toxic stress in them from yelling and hitting, that part of the brain doesn't develop. So you're talking about a whole bunch of people out here in our community that don't have good regulatory equipment. They can't make decisions. That's why the community looks like that. And so I want to just kind of get back to this whole you being a love baby. And how do you feel, or do you feel that love was expressed enough? When it was, when was it? Because I hear my mother today, my mother in her 70s too. And she was like, I know my mother loved me. She just never said it.
Mm, mm.
Right.
Um, I mean, for me, I've learned that there's different levels of love based on the way I was parented, right?
Mm-hmm.
People only can love you from what they know,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if me going upside your head, right, um, is love to me, then that's how I'm going to express it. If my expression of love is written in gifts, cards, whatever that looks like, right? So love has many levels and many characteristics, and it's based on how one defines love for them. Um, I think like I received a mixture
Mm-hmm.
um, growing up. Definitely the and I didn't get whoopings a lot. I didn't experience the beatings, right?
Gotcha.
I probably got one good one in
Mm-hmm.
my
Okay.
life, but there was the verbal abuse, right?
The verbal.
The
Mm-hmm.
verbal abuse,
Mm-hmm.
and the verbal and the emotional, right? That's a ball within itself.
Yeah. Worse.
Um, yeah,
Sometimes it's worse
it's
because it
cutting.
really sticks. It's
Mhm,
cutting. It replays
mhm,
in the mind. The
mhm,
beating you kind of get over because the whelp goes away or whatever per se. But that dog on verbal is a thing. And I'm gonna just say to you guys watching, let me tell you what I'm not gonna allow today. What I'm not gonna allow is for us to make like we can say, well, I'm gonna hit you because I love you, or
mhm,
I beat my kids because I love you. That's I have a zero tolerance for that. We're not doing that because that's not true. You understand? That's why we got this concept, love don't hurt, because love is a feeling that makes you feel, oh, happy. It makes you feel cared for. Love, if we stop to really describe what the emotion is supposed to feel like, it doesn't feel like pain, is the
right,
point.
correct.
You understand? And so that's what I want us to make sure. That's what this show is going to do. And the shows going forward in this light, we're going to make sure that we don't get to do that. We're not normalizing the pain anymore. We're not saying it's okay anymore. And we daggone sure not talking about I turned out fine anymore. Like that's not good enough. Our children have to turn out better than this. So we got to go to a commercial break. So don't get me talking like, let Alicia speak, girl, be quiet. No, but basically, we'll be right back after these messages, you guys. We'll take a quick break and just get a little bit more of how love don't hurt. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. Great day. It's your girl ASADAH here to introduce a new female solution show called ASADAH Says. That's right. Every month we're going to talk about everything I am, from cryptocurrency and financial security to good health and parenting strategies. Come on and talk with me every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And let's do that thing the way ASADAH says it should be done. See you then. Peace, right here on the Female Solution. Hold tight. I got one more message for you.
I got spanked and I turned out fine. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Kids today need to be beat. What else am I supposed to do? He's so bad. Ooh, she gets on my last nerve. Better hush up before I give you something to cry about. It was important that I write the book, Beating Black Kids.
I'm old-fashioned, and I believe, you just can't let a child do anything.
I think it's okay, long as you don't abuse them.
It's needed to a certain point.
But what I saw was a collection of adults who were talking about a topic they had never really talked about before. And out came, my mama used to hit me with a spatula. My dad used to hit me with a belt. They used to make me get wet first. They used to put my face in a pillow and then spank me. Like all of these different stories about how we have gotten beaten over time. And while there was a lot of laughter when those stories were being told, I could clearly see that there's a fine line between laughing and crying. And I knew that it was time for me to write a book about handling the situation. And so it's very obvious that this came from being a slave, from a slavery experience, and that whole spare the rod, spoil the child. The shepherd did not beat the sheep with the rod. He guided them with the rod. And so it is just obvious that that came from a slavery experience, and we have to know how to differentiate those things and then just use some discernment in terms of doing what's best for our children and not breaking their spirits. With regards to how we discipline our children, first of all, I always tell people that discipline, if you look at the etymology of the word, it comes from disciplina, which is the Latin root meaning teach. And so when you discipline a child, you are teaching them. But when you use corporal punishment and you hit our children, you're not teaching them anything. They're actually not going to do it again out of fear. They're not doing it out of reason. The frustration that we feel from being powerless in a society and all of the things that come along with that, those issues are not to be taken out on our children when we get home. The definition of domestic violence says bringing harm to someone in your home or hurting someone in your home. So I want us to look at how we beat our offspring and how that's not giving them anything good. It's making them quote unquote obedient, but that's what you make a dog, that's what you make an animal. But when you're dealing with someone of higher intelligence, use their intelligence and start to talk to them in ways that give them power, make them feel supported, listen to their ideas, and it'll just be an easier parenting road for you. There's a part of the brain called the regulatory part of the brain, and that's the part of the brain that helps you make decisions in times of adversity. Well, if they have that toxic stress before they even fall, that part of the brain does not develop. And so you're looking at a community full of people with no regulatory equipment. So we need to be bringing a different generation of people up with a different consciousness. Make sure that the kids feel good and alive while they're living. Don't be upset after they die and after there's all these senseless killings. Let's treat them well while they're living, and then we'll see a different impact. The adults want to be upset, but you taught the children the violence when they were young, and it's the tools they have. I feel like, hitting children is such a skillless. We need to foster behavior that builds them up and that just changes the way, like we talk to each other, talk to your discipline. Because discipline, we're using it a lot to describe hitting children, and this is not directly to you, LaShawn, but it's to just all of us because I've heard it and it's personally, and discipline. My book is sold in Switzerland, Germany, Tasmania, Nigeria, Sudan, Canada, all over the world. And so people all over the world are telling me, as far as Germany, that my book is making a difference in the lives of the people that other people touch, but also in the lives of many parents and families who now no longer beat their children because they read my book. A lot of people ask me if I'm going to write another book, and I'm not ready to write another book. But what I will say is that there is a high demand for the book in Spanish and in French. My book is not punitive. My book is not accusatory. But there are solutions replete throughout the whole book. It really is just about being engaged with your child. They're not going to become respectful and trustworthy through you telling them and demanding it. They're going to become that way from observing you and then emulating what they see. And so in my parental code of ethics that I wrote, one of my favorite lines is, I will only seek excellence in my child if I am excellent myself. And so that's what I say is the number one key to making sure you have great children is checking yourself.
Woo! Woo, that was a lot. Oh, we got lots to say. Let me bring my girl back on. Ooh. I gotta squoze it all in there. Like, let's try to get it all. So, feedback. Like, what are we looking at right now, Alicia? What's the work ahead of us? What's the work you want us to get done that you see as imperative for, you know, improving the situation in our families?
I want us to start working on healing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's so important that we work in healing
Mm-hmm.
and learn to become the examples for betterment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to walk through the process, walk through the process without experiencing the guilt and the shame of what your adolescent years looked like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giving voice to the pain and how you manage life every day.
Right.
Some people are in places where their backpacks are so heavy, and then as adults, right, we walk through life still suppressing, adding additional things in our backpack. We
Mm.
see so much with our youth in society today.
Right.
They don't have the ability to, as you stated in the commercial, self-regulate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're always in survival mode. The brain is always firing off. The amygdala is always open. It's continually firing. They don't know how to be
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. They don't even know what it means to experience love in a way, because now we're in a time and age where parents are buying their children things to help them feel, love,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
love is minus the discipline. And then when the child commits a crime or a murder, right? Then they're in court crying, right? So we need to facilitate difficult conversations and workshops,
Mm-hmm.
having people, parents, right, be present to talk about what their struggles were, right? And
Mm-hmm.
having their children, right? Creating communities where we can have actual dialogues because, hey, our parents, I don't believe like it was their intentions to be um, or to mishandle us, right? I don't think that was intentional, but it's what they know,
Yeah.
right? And in their minds, right?
Yeah.
Because as you stated earlier, right? It didn't hurt me. I'm living, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in actuality, we see our parents' struggles with mental health because now we are aging, right? And so we see their struggles with mental health. We see their struggles with medical health. We see their struggles
Mm-hmm.
with substance, right? And then we have to have these conversations about the expectation of us being pimped, right? And the pimping,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're gonna stay tuned for that. But we have to have a conversation about, us being pimped in regards to I did this for you, so you owe me this. But at the same
Ooh.
time, I'm already so beaten and tattered, right?
Mm.
And I have to
Mhm.
muster up the energy to do the things that are correct and should be natural, right?
Right.
In other countries, people look forward to taking care of their parents when they age, right?
Mm.
It's like a rite of passage.
Mhm.
But because we do it sometimes, I believe, begrudgingly because of how things are termed, right? And then parents need to be more open about what parental expectations are as they age.
Mm,
So, just having the difficult conversations, but really to facilitate healing. Like, we need to walk into our healing, like, as we get up in the morning, right? And get ready and prepare for our day, right? Some people may struggle with preparation in the day, but
mhm.
as we prepare for our day, right, we need to prepare for our healing the same way we put our clothes on.
Man, ooh, hold on. Y'all playing game. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me look. Let's have a moment of silence. Wait a minute. She said we need to prepare for our healing the same way we put our clothes on. Come on. We got some comments. Hold on. We got Viata says, so true that parents need to stop buying things to show love and just be present. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. Thank you, Viata. And then Naima says here, where can parents go to learn parenting skills that don't involve physical violence or verbal abuse? So check this out, y'all. I always say raise your skills and
Mhm,
not your hands to rear our children. I repeat, raise your skills and not your hands and voices to rear our children. Like there is that hitting children is not a skill, y'all. I
correct.
need y'all to hear that. It's not a skill. You really should be a little ashamed that you as an adult, and this is not to be punitive, but it's just to call the truth, to be a big person that hits a little child. Like that's who you fighting? A little defenseless child's body? Like, no, and that whole differentiation between spanking and hitting and abuse. Well, guys, guess what? The body is experiencing pain regardless.
Mhm,
The cells are dying regardless. When you see bruising, that's dead cells. That's how that's created. And so, no, no, none of it, right? We have to raise our skills and not our hands to discipline them. I want to share something that I have, because we're talking about pain. This, like I said, there's so many levels to this, but I wrote something called a parental code of ethics because people do ask me, and Naima, this is to your question. People do ask me, well, what am I supposed to do? If I don't hit him, what am I supposed to do? So I actually wrote this. Let me put us to the side so I can show it. And it's called the Parental Code of Ethics, you guys. And if you want to increase the size of your screen so you can see it, please do. But I'm going to just read a few of those things because I had to come up with something that helped us better behave as parents. So, Parental Code of Ethics: I will listen to my child and hear what's being said. Hmm? Hear what they're saying, right? I will use my wisdom to read my child's behavior and make decisions based on what I really see.
And
Okay.
I just want to interject really quick with
Mhm.
the first one, Asada. I
Yes.
will listen to my child and hear what's being said. What that
Mhm.
really is saying, right, is accountability, right? Because children see behaviors and they may question it, and then what were our infamous experiences is, boy, shut up talking, or girl, shut up talking.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Don't you talk to adults like that, right? But
See?
children also can help you remain accountable in your behaviors. And sometimes that's about the guilt and the shame that the parent may experience when the child
Mm.
calls you out on that.
See that? See that? And we got to not be mad at that. We be trying to call them fresh when they
Hmm.
come back with a rebuttal. But usually they're displaying skills they watch you display.
Hmm.
I've been called a hypocrite by my daughter. She was 7 years old. You understand me? And I'm trying to get the kids in the back of the bus to stop cursing. And so once I finish, my daughter says to me, we sitting on the bus adjacent to the kids, whatever. She whispers to me, "You're a hypocrite." And I said, "What?" She said, "You're a hypocrite." And I was like, "Why?" She said, "Cause you curse." And I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to get the kids out of curse." So we can't be mad when they coming. And I had to hear what she had to say. I can't tell her to be quiet because she talking the truth, right? Let me continue. Thank you, honey. Interject at any time. Here it says, I will focus on creating true happy moments in my child's life. I was on social media one time and I had people list the things that your mother used to say, let's say to upset you or whatever. And they was going on and on to the break of dawn. But when I said list the ways that you work to make your child happy, crickets.
Mm.
Nobody could list anything, or they didn't list it. Like, I guess they didn't focus on it enough. So I'll just read a couple more and we'll bring this back in the world. But the parental code of ethics, think you can get it on my website as well. But it says, I will foster growth and development of the gifts my child displays naturally. You understand? Sometimes they sing, sometimes they cook. If they talk a lot in school, guess what? Maybe they're a public speaker. I'm just saying, we got to get real with who they are and really tap into that. So that's the parental code of ethics. And so, Naima, there may not be a class per se, but things like the parental code of ethics really brings to the table a doing this, things we could do to be better. And so, man, I'm loving this conversation. I'm loving just the entry point. And it's not as hard as we make it sound, y'all. It's not like, ooh, this topic is taboo and we can't talk about it. We want us to let's be more civil.
Correct.
Let's act more humane with each other. Like,
Mhm.
there's everything right with having a conversation with your child or your parents. And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna have this for next week, maybe. When you look up the definition of friend, matter of fact, I might look it up. When you look up the definition of friend, it actually is what you want to be with your child. You don't want to be their peer. Now, that's the whole equivalent. Y'all dressing the same, doing the same things. But I'm going to read the definition of a friend in a minute. But you actually do want to be your child's friend. And when you focus on being your child's friend, there is at least a communication line. It's not saying y'all doing the same things. It's like a reverence that one has for the other. So, what struck you, though, Alicia, about the whole love don't hurt concept that made you reach out to me? Because I gotta bring up, y'all, I got a whole movement, y'all. Let me just show y'all, I'm not playing with y'all. What we doing right now, love don't hurt. This is just part of my role in doing this, as to how we can exemplify this concept of love don't hurt. We need to create it and feel good about it. That's my daughter when she was little. Love don't hurt, baby. That's right. So, this whole concept of love don't hurt. What struck you about the concept that made you say, okay, this is an opening for us to start this discussion?
What struck me is how we as a society always normalize love hurting.
Mm,
It's,
mm,
it's the it's and it, to me, it just doesn't make sense. There's no connection, right? Because if I love you, right, now things can certainly happen to
mm-hmm,
cause some hurt, right? But if
mm-hmm.
I'm intentional about who I am and how I want to engage, right? Being, and that means being accountable. That
Yeah.
means being able and comfortable with having conversations
Mm-hmm,
that dictate accountability, but also being responsive, right? And
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm,
we live in a world where society says that we can make more money off of trauma than learning and teaching people how to love, right?
yeah. Mm,
And so the importance of love, like, no, love is not supposed to hurt. Love is a genuine emotion, but people are afraid to do it because of the vulnerabilities that have come
mm,
with it previously, right?
mm.
So if I was previously in love, right? And when I say that, like, if my parents loved me, but they beat me, right? That's my idea of love. But then if I'm
Right,
doing the work, right?
right.
And I'm gonna question that. Well, that hurt, and then that left those abrasions that you were talking about, or that
Mm-hmm,
obedience. And then we
mm-hmm.
carry this through our lifetimes of believing that, okay, well, it's supposed to hurt, and I'm gonna normalize it, and I'm gonna get through it. So the whole concept for me is we have to stop normalizing pain
Ooh.
as love.
Hold on,
Um,
I gotta rock a little bit. Wait, hold up. Wait, wait. I can't. She said we gotta stop normalizing pain. Y'all feel me? And then acting like it's love. Go ahead, Mom. We got more comments too, girl.
we
Sure.
we have to be honest about whatever was said or whatever action, right? Because if I pick up a gun and I shoot you, you dead, right? Then we see people typically saying, "Well, I love that person." Well, if you loved me, how could you kill me? So
Man.
it's like looking at I'm walking around with a bunch of bullet holes, right? But and it was done in love. But
Ooh.
I'm hurting. You could see through me, right?
Ooh.
And so that's not love, right? We
Yeah.
want to patch up the holes. We
Yeah.
want to be whole people learning how to express love, have
Mm.
conversations about the very things that got us to these places in order
Mm-hmm.
to facilitate healing.
Mm-mm.
Got
Come on. Let me get some of these comments, chat, before we got to go. Lord. So Viata said, any triggers from my grandchildren or adults I now see as an opportunity to grow in my discipline or
Mhm,
communication skills. Excellent. Thank you, Viata. Your children will thank you. Your grandchildren will thank you. We have to do better, right? And
mhm,
then Naima says, definition. Thank you, Naima, of a friend. A friend is a person whom one knows well, trusts, and regards with affection, typically distinct from an acquaintance, romantic partner, or family member. They offer mutual support, share common interests, and are not hostile. Hercules, Hercules. You can't tell me you don't want to be your child's friend. Like that is what a friend is. You can't tell me. Like to me, you should be your child's first friend. And I think we give so much credence and so much effort to not being that, to not being my child's friend, that we become a monster. We become something else.
because we try to separate the parenting, right?
Come on.
I'm the
Please.
parent and you do as I say, and that's that
Yes.
obedience thing
Yes.
that you shared earlier, right?
Yes.
And so, but obedience, like even thinking about that mindset, obedient, like the slave thought process and that you better be obedient, so and so, I'm gonna do so and so to you.
Mm-hmm.
And just thinking about how the verbiage is carried through to how we engage with each other every day.
Man. Man, always hurting each other. Like
Mhm,
literally, so funny. In Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard talks about love as an emotion, and he says that it's really a compound emotion of admiration and sympathy.
mhm,
Hmm. Because people go, oh, you hurt yourself. Let me help you. Or, like you said, they kill out of love. They
mhm,
do weird dances out of love. It's almost like it's love can be a very, like you were so in love with them and you're hurting. They
mhm,
left you.
mhm,
He said you really want to liken yourself to admiration because he said when you love someone, you usually want to see them caged. But when you admire someone, you want to see them set free.
mhm,
And so when I think of the men in my life that I loved, it's really about the ones I admired.
mhm.
Because when we finished our relationship, I still wanted them to prosper.
Sure.
I don't think I had any end with me going, feeling sad, like, but that emotion of love and sadness. You see what I'm saying? What my man was saying. So that simply, I know the sun coming through, baby. It's all
Yes,
good.
it is. Bright, bright.
It's okay. It's just light. It's all good. But basically, I love this distinction. I love and adore and admire us making it clear, y'all. We have got to make it so that love doesn't hurt anymore. Like we really need to do the things that we want. What are we trying to communicate? What effect do we want to put on our children? I have in my book something about memories and the type of memories we leave in our children. What's the memory you leaving in your children of you? Is it of you wielding your hand with a strap? Is it of you smacking them and leaving whelps on them? Is it of you, the memories they have of you yelling? Because you try to say, well, my mama, I'm glad she hit me. No, I said, you saying that now that you're an adult. But when you were a child, what were you saying? The man said, oh, I wanted to kill her. That never left you.
Mhm,
It's in your
mhm.
spirit, kid. That
Correct.
resentment is still in you. And so give the audience, we got at least maybe about 4 minutes left. Give the audience what you think is a better solution, Mom. What do you think we need to do to start to repair? Because you can say we need to heal, but what does that look like? What can that look like? Because you work with people. Matter of fact, y'all, if you look at the number at the bottom, it says for therapy services, call that number, right? That's my girl, Alicia's number for you to call. But what would you say is part of the healing process? What do you give to even some of your clients, patients, and the like?
Part of the healing, of course, it begins with the conversation. And it's a difficult conversation to have. It's nothing easy. I always give the ACEs, right? Because then it helps me learn. Also, when I learn about the individual, right, then I develop a mind state of how we're going to approach this. Because oftentimes, again, not understanding there are resources. Someone asked, I remember you saying about parenting. There are parenting programs out here, right? But it's also good if we develop parenting courses to help others, right? Learning, like incorporating the book or some other books, right? But it's breaking the barriers and starting the conversation. And as
Mhm.
I stated, right? As you get up in the morning, you have to walk into your healing the same way. You have to want to be dedicated to correct and change the very things that have caused you harm and have helped you, and not, I'm sorry, and not helped you, but they keep plaguing you, right? Because a lot of these things, they stay bottled up. So you want to walk into your healing every day, right? What can I do different? Whether it's through reading books, affirmations, attending classes or groups, right? And it's something that I'm looking forward to do is creating groups and spaces to hold these conversations. As a clinician, it's something very dear to me because I want to see us grow differently from the pains that keep us shackled. It's a
Yeah.
different shackle, and it's
Yeah.
an emotional shackle.
Yes, I mean,
So,
indeed, indeed. This is maybe gonna stretch y'all into me and my girl doing some things together because you know it take. I'm pretty big in the anti-corporal punishment arena because the majority of people there are white. They are sociologists and professors and that teach in these classes about families and the use of peace versus hitting and all of that. Well, that ends up looking like us because we hit our children and block. Well, they hit people all over the world. We got that. Corporal punishment didn't even come from us. But we're going to take care of us for a minute. We just going to work on how we can heal and what we can develop to give guidance to parents on better things to do. So, like I said, and it's almost that time to go. But for your therapy services, when they call you, what should they expect? Are they booking time with you? What's happening?
I usually do a phone consultation about their needs, and then we just kind of go from there.
Okay, good. So y'all see the phone number at the bottom. I do want to say thank you so much for being here today, my love. This has been the bomb. This hour goes fast and with so much to deal with. This month, y'all, we're going to be dealing with this topic of love don't hurt and looking at a strategy for us to improve as a people so that we can go ahead and start that healing. Thank y'all so much for being here today. Thank you, Alicia, for
Thank you,
bringing your
Asada.
expertise, baby. And y'all see that number down there. Use it if you need it. And see y'all next Tuesday. Just know that love don't hurt. Love y'all. Peace.
Thank you so much. Have a
You
good
got it. All right.
one.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jaref. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.